What's going on, everyone? Jax here, and this week I am with the 2022 Hyundai Tucson plug-in hybrid, which is one of the most exciting new cars on the market. I'm kidding, it's not one of the most exciting new cars on the market, but it might be one of the most relevant. Plug-in hybrids are something that I think a lot of people, a lot of consumers would be more interested in, maybe more so than full EVs. I know Mrs. Jax has said that multiple times, that she's a little hesitant to go fully EV. So let's take a look at this Hyundai Tucson plug-in and see if maybe plug-in hybrids are kind of the way to go, like the middle ground. Now, as usual, I'm gonna start with the styling. And to be honest with you, full disclosure, when the Hyundai Tucson in its current generation debuted, I was not the biggest fan of the way that this vehicle looked. I thought the front end was way overdone. Like, you know, those celebrity things that pop up on like Facebook and stuff that are like, he started having plastic surgery and then it got out of control. And there are those people with the like square heads and the giant lips. That's kind of how I felt the Hyundai Tucson was starting to sort of drift in that direction a little bit. Like the Hyundai designers just could not put the pencil down and they just kept drawing. It sort of looks like, you know, with the hidden headlights and stuff, everybody's like, wow, the headlights are hidden. And I'm like, yeah, do you still like Magic Eye, you know, games or puzzles or whatever? I don't even know what those are. What are those called? Like Magic Eye illusions? Because that's what I kind of felt like it was. I do think in white, it does help to minimize some of that crazy surface detailing along the sides. And I actually think the overall proportions are pretty good. And I don't have a problem with the back end. Like the taillights look cool. They've got the little triangle details and stuff. Definitely not as successful as the Ioniq 5, but I'm not hating it as much as I thought. However, fortunately, or unfortunately for Hyundai, however you want to look at it, the new Kia Sportage is dropping like right now. As I'm making this video, the plug-in version of the Kia Sportage is coming out. And that's a better looking vehicle in like every respect. The sort of design risks that they took with the Sportage kind of pay off in my opinion, and it looks a lot cooler than this Hyundai Tucson inside and out. Now, I guess that's a win for Hyundai because they're Kia's parent company, and so it's kind of all the same. But if it were me, I'd probably go with the Sportage plug-in because I really like the way the Sportage looks. Now, powering the Tucson plug-in hybrid is a 1.6-liter turbo 4 mated to a 90 horsepower electric motor, and that's going through a 6-speed automatic transmission, and it's being distributed through H-Track all-wheel drive, which I don't really care about at all because I live in Atlanta. We rarely get the kind of weather that you need that for. Also worth noting that the 6-speed automatic transmission is slightly less efficient than some of the other vehicles like the RAV4 Prime and the Ford Escape plug-in that use CVT automatics to increase their efficiency, which is why the Tucson plug-in only gets 33 miles fully EV, and it's slightly less efficient doing so. We'll get to that later. Do I care? Not in the slightest. Combined power is 261 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque, which is actually really good. Guys, it wasn't that long ago when I remember the Infiniti G35 sports sedan came out back in like 2003, and I think it had 260 horsepower to start with standard, and everybody was like, that's so powerful. What are you gonna do with all that power? And now here's a Hyundai Tucson plug-in that you're like, 260 horsepower. I guess I could make do with that, and you can. As I mentioned, you get 33 miles of EV range. Otherwise, you get about a 35 mile per gallon average, which I was easily able to attain. And when you factor it all in using government maths, that equates to like 80 miles per gallon MPGE, FG, HIJK, LMNOP, I don't know. But anyway, it's 80 miles per gallon on the window sticker. RAV4 is like 100. In day-to-day driving, it doesn't matter. You're not gonna notice it. The key is recharging, and that is sort of your lifestyle connection as I will now explain while driving the vehicle. So here we are behind the wheel, and I apologize for the air conditioning noise, but I have the air conditioning set to 80 and it's still blowing that hard because it's 100 degrees outside. So, you know, forgive me for trying not to die. But let's take a moment to brag on the Hyundai Tucson's road manners, because they are quite good. This is a very nicely tuned ride. I am 100% here for this state of tune on this type of vehicle. It's comfortable enough. It doesn't have any kind of harshness or anything. We'll go down the handling road in a bit just so we can go over some of those really awful rough patches. But all in all, like, the Tucson does a nice job of being firm-ish, but definitely being more biased towards comfort. I think the thing that I like the most about it is that I wasn't really expecting it to ride this well, to stay this composed, to be on the, dare I say, sportier side of the handling equation in this class of vehicles. We have a Toyota RAV4. That's what my teenager drives, and it's fine. I mean, the RAV4 is kind of the standard, but I would say that this Tucson rides better and handles better. Everything's just a tiny bit sharper and more confidence inspiring without losing some of that day-to-day comfort. Now, on that note, the steering is fine, the throttle response is fine. This does not have a massively powerful EV powertrain. We'll get to that in a second. So I think 0 to 60 under max power is like 7 seconds or something. So totally fine for this segment of vehicle. Brakes are okay. They are hybrid brakes. They're not terribly grabby or anything like that. A little grabby maybe at the end when you're coming to a complete stop, but definitely not something that I would get bent out of shape about. I've complained about grabby brakes on other hybrids, notably some Toyotas, which they've been sort of ironing out in the past year or two. So I think it's, in day-to-day driving, you're not gonna have a problem with it. You'll get used to it very quickly. Now, on the note of power, it is good. Remember, we're dealing with 258 pound-feet of torque, but the RAV4 Prime, ironically or weirdly or however you want to put it, is like the fastest non-Supra Toyota.
It's true.
This is not that. It's just adequate. It's good. So, you know, you're not expecting that kind of secret hot rod or whatever you would from the RAV4. Also, take note of the driving position. I'm 6'6" and I fit in this vehicle very well. In fact, I can nearly sit behind myself, which is an impressive feat of engineering. So if you have a tall family like I do, they will find the accommodations in here to be very good for a vehicle of this size. Now, I want to point out just these rough patches on the handling road, because I had the Nissan Pathfinder in the previous video and I thought it got a little out of sorts on side-to-side transitions. And even though the Tucson is not Mazda CX-5 magical, it does a good job maintaining itself on this road where you have all kinds of dips and wallows hitting different corners of the vehicle at different times. You'll notice that my head isn't kind of like bobbling around and stuff like that. The car's moving around me as it should. That's what it should be doing. So I think this is a very good compromise between comfort and sportiness. So bravo Hyundai for putting together not only an extremely efficient vehicle, but one that feels nice from behind the wheel. There's the big bump right there. Psh, ain't no thing. I enjoy driving this. I think that's the bottom line coming from the handling road, is that I enjoy driving this and I don't feel like the efficiency is like penalizing me in any way. I like that efficiency in this vehicle is easy to maximize. When you're driving a hybrid or a plug-in hybrid, as this vehicle is, it's nice when you can maximize the efficiency without feeling like you're being that guy in traffic. And I've been driving this thing in eco mode almost the entire week that I've had it. And I'm really in favor of the way that eco mode feels on this vehicle. You know, on some vehicles that you switch it into like eco mode or conserve mode or your lane mode or whatever they're calling it, and it immediately just destroys the sensitivity of the throttle pedal. Like you have to stand on it to get any kind of response from the vehicle. That is not the case here. You get enough response that you can kind of glide into traffic without wasting gas. It helps you to sort of maximize electrons in EV mode. I really like it, and I've left it in this mode despite the fact that I definitely am an enthusiast and I like to go fast and have fun. Not that this vehicle warrants it, but I think that having an EV mode set up this way, where you're not just totally neutering the responses of the vehicle, makes people more likely to use it. Hyundai definitely did their homework with this vehicle. They didn't copy their homework. They didn't nudge the guy next to them and go, hey Toyota, how have you been doing this all these years? They studied it, they analyzed it, they reverse engineered it. I don't know what they did, but they did a great job. It feels like a premium vehicle. It is 99% of kind of Mazda's ambiance, not the driving experience, but the sort of interior ambiance. The materials feel great. I was not a huge fan of the Hyundai Elantra's interior. It looked okay, but the materials weren't great. This, absolutely. This is a $44,000 small hybrid plug-in crossover, and it feels every cent of it. Also, ergonomically, this thing is pretty great with one notable exception. It's the piano black touch buttons. They're not terrible, okay? I'm not gonna sit here, you know me, I'm not one of those guys who has some kind of like techno thing that I don't enjoy, and I'm just like, the infotainment is the worst thing ever, like the Lexus system and the Acura system. I don't think they're that bad, and I don't think that these touch buttons are that bad. I don't love the fact that there's a lot of piano black plastic, the kind of black plastic look, and the touch buttons are just not a good idea ever. Anything that causes you to take your eyes off the road when you're trying to drive is just not helpful. It's just not good. I think that's a little bit of a miss in an otherwise really nice interior. Now, like some other Hyundais, this Tucson has Hyundai's sort of attractive digital gauge cluster. It's not like super fancy or customizable or anything, but it looks really nice, and it gives you a lot of information in EV. And that's what you want out of a digital gauge cluster. So I appreciate the fact that they recognize that so many vehicles are moving in that direction. So let me give you an example of why I really like these plug-in hybrid EVs. I'll give you two reasons. The first reason is what I just did with this thing. I made a quick grocery store run. I was getting low on EV juice. I'd been driving in EV mode most of the day today, and I pulled into my local Publix where they have I'm not sure about the brand, it's called Volta, a Volta free 240 charger. And I backed in. That's one downside. You have to back in because the charge port is in the rear of the vehicle, but not a huge deal. So I backed in, plugged in, and I was in the grocery store for a little while, definitely less than an hour, and I was up to 3/4 of a charge. And if you're charging at home, you don't get that much, juice that quickly. But I could run around here. 240s are much more plentiful than fast chargers. I could run around here running my errands, plugging in as I go, and be on EV power like almost all of the time. And that's where this thing really hits its main efficiency benefit. The second reason is I think that makes this the perfect car for those people who don't want to early adopt full EVs. I've been talking to Mrs. Jax about this because we've been thinking about replacing her old Suburban, and she is hesitant to get a fully EV vehicle as our main vehicle. Like, we don't have a main vehicle because the Suburban is what we use for trips. And our kids are older now, we don't need all that space. But she doesn't want to get a fully EV vehicle when we're trying to drive to the beach and Disney and stuff like that. This, or a plug-in hybrid in general, makes a whole ton of sense because you get in your day-to-day life most of the benefit of that EV, and your driving it's not a penalty at all. It feels normal, it feels good, it feels like a everyday SUV. And I think that if we could find maybe one slightly bigger than this, like the Sorento, if you could find something like this for a couple like us with older kids, I mean, that is the ideal. Now, I'm more of a fan of EVs than she is, but I think for people like her who want the practicality, the efficiency, who want to feel like they're not throwing their money away on gas, but have that engine in hybrid form as a backup with no driving penalty. If anything, it feels good to drive this vehicle. I mean, this thing is perfect for that. It really is. Hi, shameless plug. You should be following me on other forms of social media where I post other videos and other content, like behind the scenes sort of things and stuff like that. So check me out there. Follow me if you're not already. Let's get back to the review. Now, one of the main reasons that people buy vehicles like this is cargo capacity and interior space. And this is where the Tucson kind of scores a win against, the class-leading RAV4, which, by the way, we have one. Ella drives a RAV4. It is a base model, but we have a current gen RAV4. And the Tucson feels noticeably roomier inside. The second row space in particular is quite a bit more generous than in her RAV4. I can nearly sit behind myself in the Tucson, and I'm 6'6". In a RAV4, that's not really possible. I mean, I can wedge back there, but it's not a pleasant experience. Also, you don't pay a huge penalty in cargo carrying capability when you switch to the plug-in hybrid. This model has 32 cubic feet of space behind the second row, which is just a hair less than the RAV4. And I actually think that that is an acceptable trade-off because I would rather have a little bit, well, let's say I would rather have significantly more rear seat room than, have a tiny shred more of cargo carrying capacity. Just so you know, it's like 1 cubic foot or something. So it's like 1 extra beer. Not that I'm advising you to bring an extra beer in the vehicle, but I'm using it for reference, allegedly, theoretically. Disclosure: don't drink beer, it's unhealthy.
Hey, Barney, I think you've had enough.
Now, I will mention, because I feel like I'm kind of shilling for the Kia Sportage here. To be honest, I have not tested the Kia Sportage. I'm very interested though, Kia. I didn't get invited to the press event, so send me one here in Atlanta. I have a lot of good things to say about it on paper. I want to be proven right in person. Anyway, let's move on. The Kia Sportage has almost 40 cubic feet of space behind its second row, because it's slightly larger than this. That is really good. I mean, that's getting up to almost the next class of SUV size. So that's something to consider as well if you're interested in this or that. I'd be more interested in that, to be honest. Oh, Hyundai, you need a light in here or something. That would be a little bit better, so that you can see it, in the dark. Oh, and we haven't even gotten to this thing's knockout blow yet, and that is this interior. The interior materials in here are an absolute knockout compared to something like the Toyota RAV4. Now keep in mind, I am a RAV4 owner. We have a RAV4, and as a base model car, we bought a stripped down base model used for our 16-year-old to drive because it's an extremely reliable and spacious small SUV. However, the interior plastics are worse than the tops of school desks. That fake wood plastic material. I don't even know what you would call it. Basically anything found within a school. That's the level of plastic that we're talking about inside of a RAV4. Lego has higher standards than that. In here, you have this low gloss and finely grained top of your dash, this sort of fabric along the midsection, soft touch plastic that Redline Reviews always likes to point out, injection molded soft touch plastic. I'm not really sure why that matters, but they think it does. So injection molded soft touch plastic, fake leather, real leather. I mean, it's not real leather, but leather, right? Leather surfaces, soft touch on the center console. And the one demerit here is the black plastic trim. I hope that we're getting over that. I talked about it a little bit in the driving portion in terms of sort of ergonomics and functionality. In terms of looks, it looks good when it's clean. These cars are always delivered extremely clean. I have a feeling if you live with it, it's gonna start to look gross. Other than that, this interior, the way the vents go into the trim, the way the freaking seat, the custom seat buttons go into the trim, this is a very nice nicely done interior, front and back. You have heated and cooled seats, heated steering wheel, blind spot cameras. You have the little digital gauges. You've got a crystal clear surround view camera. You've got a panoramic sunroof. You've got literally every safety option that Hyundai and Kia offer, and you've got one of the better adaptive cruise control systems on the market. You've got everything in here for $44,000. Do I think that price is appropriate at this level? Yes, absolutely. I mean, guys, they're selling RAV4 Primes for like darn near 50 grand. I'm not counting all the federal tax breaks or whatever. Let's just talk money, dollars and cents on the window sticker. The RAV4 Prime, even if it costs the exact same as this, no, it's not in the same league. I will give up those 5-6 miles of EV range to feel like I got a car that looks like it costs the price that's on the sticker, and the RAV4 Prime absolutely does not. And I adore the RAV4 Prime. Please go watch that video. I gushed over the RAV4 Prime, and this kicks it into the weeds, man. This just kicks sand in its face like it's a high school rom-com. And this is the nerd before it got the, no, wait, that doesn't make sense. The RAV4 would be the nerd who gets the girl. No, this is gonna get the girl. This is the nerd who gets the girl, because look at that face. Look at that face. This has to be the nerd. Those are the braces. This has to be the nerd. The RAV4 Prime is like the smart kid, but he doesn't ever get a girl. Sorry, smart kids. So should you buy a Hyundai Tucson plug-in hybrid over its competitors like the RAV4 Prime or the Ford Escape plug-in hybrid? Well, you should absolutely buy this over the Ford Escape plug-in hybrid, mainly because it looks like some sort of aquatic undersea creature, and its interior materials are just as bad as the RAV4s. Now, the RAV4 Prime is the GOAT in this category with its very substantial 40 miles of EV range. I mean, that is very impressive, and I really, really like the RAV4 Prime. But the minute I slipped behind the wheel of this Hyundai Tucson, I was blown away by how good the materials were, all of the options, the updated technology. That is a major downside of the RAV4, is that it's stuck with Toyota's ancient infotainment system. And this is using Hyundai Kia's very decent, I mean, it's been out for, what, 2 years now? And it's still a very decent infotainment system. So that is a huge downside for the RAV4, not to mention the rear seat legroom, not to mention the interior materials. I don't want to belabor the point, but come on. The interior of this thing is just in another class compared to the RAV4 Prime. So I highly, highly recommend that you check out the Hyundai Tucson plug-in hybrid. And you and me both need to check out the Kia Sportage plug-in when it drops, which is now, and when I get one, which hopefully is soon. Guys, thanks so much for watching. If you found value in this video, or you just like these types of reviews, please consider liking, please consider subscribing, please consider sharing this with someone who's in the market for a sort of small to mid-size SUV. I would really appreciate that. And one more reminder to go follow me on my other social channels, where I post all kinds of content about the vehicles that I review and some of the things I do in between times. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next video. Ride safe, drive safe, and I'll see you soon. Peace. 0.6-liter turbo. Guy in front of me in a Dodge Ram is gunning it off every stoplight. Apparently, he's extremely wealthy and gas prices aren't a thing. I hope your truck explodes. I hope your obnoxious pickup truck explodes. Why don't you just drive around like gas doesn't cost $8 a gallon, you freaking loser? Also, I would never wish ill to any animals, but these birds need to shut up. I get it. There's thunder. Get over it.